she on live. Right now. Please pull over the whip, no phoning when you drive. You tune in, that means you're feeling the vibe. The bell rung, you already been subscribed. Right now, the queen, she on live. Right now. Please pull over the whip, no phoning when you drive. Dope soul, sporting with the talk. First lady from New York, Brooklyn. All my people, you rocking with the chat. That like button would tell me where you at. You know, step from the MBK. Born and raised up MBK. Hey, real lady, where she holding it down. No matter way how you feel, she gon' greet you with a smile.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Oh, sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Don't talk.
Where you at? Where you at?
Don't talk.
Where you at? Where you at?
Don't talk.
What?
Don't talk.
What?
Don't talk.
Where you at? Where you at?
Salute, Knick family. Welcome to the Just Knickin' It Weekly Show. I'm your host, Stephanie, a.k.a. Queen. The obligatory, y'all know my condition. I'm hoping the mic is sounding good. I hope the video, we might have a little glitches in the video, but I think I'm going to be all right for this, for this live stream. Y'all let me know. Today we're talking Mikal Bridges. He had his press conference, the first press conference the Knicks have had in, I believe, 3 years. I was super surprised about that. So we'll talk about Mikal Bridges and his fit offensively and defensively. We'll talk a little bit about OG Anunoby as well. I'm curious if the fans have higher expectations of him given the massive contract that he signed. We'll talk OG and Mikal together and just how that stacks up against other wings in the Eastern Conference. We'll talk summer league. We'll talk minutes distribution. Listen, when we get to that, that's Jeff. Jeff brought that up. I already know how y'all feel about a 10-man rotation and everybody splitting minutes. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So and we can also take calls today. I'm set up to take calls. Let me bring in Jeff. It seems like it's just me and you today, Jeff. How you doing? And the chat, of course.
Salute to the chat. Thanks for having me on, Queen. It's crazy because it's the dead part of the off season, and it seems like it's still got stuff going on. So it's always something.
Yeah. The Knicks introduced Mikal Bridges. Watching the press conference, I don't know, it just got my juices flowing. I'm like, wow, like the New York Knicks we are really on our way. I really feel that with this signing. So just talk to me a little bit. I don't know if you were able to watch the press conference.
I did see it, yes.
Okay. And if is there anything he said that stood out for you?
It was a little bit milquetoast. I don't put a lot into these pressers. He seems like my favorite part of the press conference. You want to know the truth? Was when he said, "I must be saying something right because my mama's shaking her head in the front row."
Right.
That was my favorite part right there, because when a kid respects his mama like that, that's big time to me. That's important to me. I like it when they honor their parents that way. So to me, I guess I'm just an old head, but that was my favorite part of it. But I think I've been on air as being critical of the Bridges trade, but not because of the player that we're getting. I want to be clear about that. My concern is the picks in 29 and 31 unprotected. That's a long way off. But in the present, Mikal Bridges is a great ball player. And the first thing that I think about actually is I don't know how you felt about this, but I kind of felt like after the trade deadline, when we made the deal and we sent Grimes to Detroit, didn't really have that defender in the backcourt who could just kind of take on the other team's top, smaller player. I just don't think that's OG's strong suit, and he wasn't there for a lot of the time. I think OG can do it for a little bit, but Mikal, you can just give that job to him, and he can do it
Right.
He can do it the same way that Grimes did, and
Right.
better than Grimes, in my opinion. But I'm just using that as because Grimes did an excellent job of that. For being on the ball, he was much better in that role than anybody else that we had. So on the defensive side of the ball, I think we replaced that in spades, and and he's a player. I always like to say that OG guards 1.5 guys, and I
Mm-hmm.
think McCollum is another one who guards 1.5 guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if and we know that Thibodeau likes his rim protection at the 5, and hopefully Mitch is healthy. And if you have 3 elite defenders on the floor, I think that does a lot to cover up for Brunson and Randle. And
Randall.
Brunson tries hard on defense. He's just limited physically, but he's going to draw your charges. And I think you see better defense from him with the players around him. And we know that Randle is a capable defender when he
Right.
decides that he's going to do it. It's just you don't know when he's going to decide. But if he doesn't have as much responsibility on offense, if he doesn't have as
He
much
won't.
responsibility on offense, and he's allowed to, just focus and lock in, he's certainly capable. So from a defensive standpoint, I absolutely love it. I think having those two is going to be, you know, it, obviously you have to get to a series with the Celtics first. If you're going to beat the champs, you've got to have a recipe or a formula. And I think having two big defensive wings like we have, probably the best defensive wing tandem in the NBA, that's not Boston, because Boston's is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it gives us it makes it bridges the gap. Pardon the pun.
Mm-hmm.
But it bridges the gap between the two teams in a significant way. And then on offense, man, I'm excited because he doesn't have to be Brooklyn Bridges.
Right.
He's not going to be asked with being the top
Right.
scorer on the team. And it felt like right after the trade from Phoenix, and teams didn't really know what to expect from him as a number one option. He blew up. He averaged like 26 a game, and everyone was like, whoa, the Nets got themselves a star. And then when everybody had a training camp and a chance to kind of key in on Bridges, then you kind of saw his numbers dip a little bit, because I don't think he is a number one option. Lucky
Right.
for him, we have guys named Brunson and Randle, and so he can go right back into his Phoenix Suns role where he was super effective and get lots of great shots and attack closeouts on the regular and get wide open catch and shoot opportunities.
Right.
So yeah, I think that we've come a long way from the days of having a top 5 offense without anybody who could shoot. Imagine what this group can do now that it's a bunch of shooters, with Randle.
True. I
Pretty,
mean,
pretty
yeah,
impressive.
yeah, but yeah. I mean, to piggyback off of what you're saying, defensively, him and OG are switchable. If whoever they're playing out on the wing, they'll be able to, they'll be able to switch. Um, they'll be able to hold their own. We're not the thing with, they're two-way players, but it's not like Paul George in the sense where Paul George is looked. He has to defend and score at a high level. Sure, OG's going to score for us, and sure, Mikal is going to score for us, but they're not like our primary defenders and our primary scorers, right? So I think that bodes well for us. I like the fact that both of them can shoot the three. Um, Bridges is not a bad three. I think he's 37%, maybe
He's a good
38%.
3-point shooter.
Yeah,
He's a good
from the
3-point
three
shooter.
point. Yeah. And a lot of his shots is off the catch and shoot. And so, like you said, that was his role in Phoenix. That's going to be his role here. But I think because of his experience with Brooklyn, he'll be able to do a little more than he did in Phoenix. He'll
I
be able
agree.
to do, yeah, he'll be able to do a little more. I think he's going to be our solid third option. And I think if Randall has to miss a game, I think he can easily step into a number 2 role just from the experience he's had. And from watching him with the Nets, he's not afraid to take a shot at the end of the game. He's not afraid to take a big shot, And so having Randall who could take a shot at the end of the game, Brunson who could take a shot at the end of the game, and Mikal Bridges, and I'm not saying you would draw the play up for him, but if it got to him, he's not going to panic. He's not going to
No,
panic.
not
So
at all.
not at all. And
But
I
the
also
defense might. The defense has to pay attention to him.
correct, and that helps to create space, and he can attack the closeout. He's really good off the dribble. He's really good in the middle, getting into the lane and pulling up with his long arms and high release. Um, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the impact he's going to have both offensively and defensively. And people talk about his defense. I think people are going to be super surprised at his offense. I think they're going to be super surprised at that because he hasn't reached his ceiling. And he said himself he had a bad season last year. Now he's going to be operating with more space, less touches though, but operating in more space. I think we're going to really get to see.
See, but I think that's a win-win. Less touches, but more space means that the shot attempts that he's going to be taking are going to be higher percentage looks, and that higher shooting percentage is going to more than make up for the fewer attempts because they're not going to be as difficult attempts. And I love what you said. I think what you said is so critical. And I would go so far as to say that, other than Brunson, we didn't really have anybody last year who could do that mid-range game stuff like Mikal can. And so that added extra element in addition to being the threat beyond the arc really really gives you options on the things that you can do. And so it gives the Knicks the opportunity to be really super creative with their offensive sets this year. So I'm looking forward. I know what everybody says we don't run any offense, but I'm curious to see when you have offensive players like we have. And the other thing, and I know I'm going to save that because I don't want to jump the gun on that. But let's just say I like the possibilities with Bridges, but I just think as a two-way player, he's terrific and he fits the profile of everything the Knicks want to do.
Everything. And he's not somebody that's gonna force the offense as well. None of these guys are. Well, Brunson's, but I think
Yeah,
he's doing it
go to
because
work,
he
son.
feels, yeah, he
we're
feels
we're
like he
okay with
has
Brunson for it.
right. So yeah, I'm super happy. What about his, just him and OG together, and then we'll talk about OG, separate. But what about him and OG together? You know, I'm not sure they're going to be able to shut down. I think when you talk about Tatum's and the Browns and these all NBA type players, you're not going to shut them down. So, like the idea that because we have them, they're going to hold Tatum to like 15 points. I mean, for a series, it's not happening. But
I agree.
it's going to make it super hard for him. Make him work for every shot. Not just him, Maxi, Brown, all the other wing players. And then hopefully they're not as efficient. That's what you really hope. And I'll just get to, and I'll say this before I get to you, Jeff. In the playoffs, if you can, the stars usually take it up in the playoffs. If you could just keep a star to their average, you're doing great. Because Embiid dropped 50 on us in the playoffs. Like this is what these superstar type players do. They take it up a notch in the playoffs. So if they were averaging 26, they can easily drop a 42, 45 point game in the playoffs. So if you can kind of keep them at their average, that's great. If you could keep them below, wow. you know? So I like that we have that option, but I don't that they're here to make it harder, but I have no expectations that they're gonna just like lock guys down and to like 12 points a game in a series. Your thoughts?
I agree with that 100%, but I think that I think you hit it on the head. There's value in not there's value in making a player work for it. Not all 31-point performances are the same.
Right.
If you're 31 points on 15 shots and everything's coming to you easy, that
Right.
that's just free money. But if you're 31 points on 31 shots and you're working your tail off to get to your spots and you're having to make contested, off balance, difficult shots, yeah, they're still going to do that because they're top 15 players in the world. They're going to do that. But if they have to work, the harder they have to work on offense, then the less energy they have on defense. The harder they have to work on defense, the harder it's going to be for them to operate on offense. So I think to have those complete players, those two-way wings that can just be a deterrent. I agree with you. You're not going to shut down Brown and Tatum completely, but we've seen up until this past playoffs where they just walked over everybody because they didn't really have to play any of the elite teams, in my opinion, because of injury. But in years past, when it got tight, when those series got tight, you saw Brown struggle, you saw Tatum struggle, and in their struggles, that was because the people guarding them were just making it work. And yeah, you're getting your 25, 26, but you're taking a lot of shots. You're missing a lot of shots. You're turning the ball over. You're giving us. And when they miss those shots and when they turn the ball over, those are extra possessions for us, chances for us to get out and run, chances to do some things where, if they're hitting all their shots and you're just taking the ball out of the net, it's tough to win.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and it also prevents them from getting into a rhythm. Like you said, when there's no resistance, it's easy to drop 50. You know what I mean? There's no resistance. I'm coming off this screen free and clear. I might not even need a screen, depending on depending on who
It's
you
the
have
All-Star
guarding
game.
me,
Let's
right?
just go. Score
Yeah.
points. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But when they have to, work for it, like you said, they can't get into that rhythm. They can't get into that flow. And you're right, they may still end up with 31 points on like 25 shots. We'll take it. So I'm really, looking forward to that. And I also like that Devo is coming off as far as we know anyway. It looks like DiVincenzo will be coming off the bench, and there's some injury protection there. And I know, a shout out to Sherwin who's in the chat. He said Mikal is 6'6", 200 pounds, but I still feel if OG is hurt, he can move to the three, and Devo can fill in at that two spot. Any concerns about Mikal Bridges at 6? They list him 6'7", but Sherwin, our resident um, height and weight guy, says that he's 6'6", 200. Regardless, any concern about him playing the three spot in the event, but not even in the event of an injury, because you can even do that. You can just, if OG sits down, you can decide to do that.
I actually think that the three is a more natural position for him than the two. I think he's just playing the two here because of who else we have in our starting lineup. And 6'6" is wing size. Like that's small forward size to me. 6'6", 6'7", whatever it is. I don't. We were playing 6'4", 6'5" last year and in years past on that and having to live with it. So having 6'6" with long arms that go on for days and a great wingspan, not a problem as far as I'm concerned. And I honestly consider him a three. And I think that, we're gonna have to figure it out as far as, how it balances with him at the two, because I don't think it's his natural position. But we're so much I'm kind of trying to get out of my old school. It's so much more positionless than it used to be that it's probably unwise for me to pigeonhole a player as a I'm so used to point guard shooting it. Well, now you just have point guards, wings, and centers. Like, and even the point guard and center thing is because you have bigger guys who are playing roles as point guards. So it's just you have guards and wings and bigs. So those are your three classifications and where do they fit. And in the modern NBA, especially, when you can only play one of those spots, it limits you. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's a little bit tricky to build a championship contender around Jalen Brunson, because he can only play one position. And so
Right.
because of that, you need flexibility at the 2 and the 3 spot and the 4 spot. And that's why players like Anunoby and Bridges are the perfect fit for the Knicks, even if there are better players available, more skilled players available. But for what we're trying to do and what we need as a template,
Right.
we're building around Jalen. Um,
Right.
and I think once you have, and I think that's the difference of knowing when you have the star in the building versus not having him. Like, in other words, you don't know who you had, then you don't know who you need or what you need to get. Once
Right.
Brunson rose into stardom, then he said, okay, this is our star. What components does our star need around him to make this the most successful group that it can? And so you get a lot of these active, long, really good defensive wing players. And shooting, and the Knicks have really doubled down on those aspects. If you look at the guys that we brought in here since Brunson's ascension.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point. They build in this team specifically for him and to flank him with, two long-armed, defensive specialists who can actually score. Like I'm really, I thought our defense was good last year. I'm really looking to see what it looks like this year, and our bench needed to be strengthened. And having DiVincenzo, who was a starter, and Hart, who was a starter for a good part of last season, coming off the bench, that automatically strengthens the bench. McBride, started games for us, played very well in the playoffs. He got that experience. He's coming off the bench. That strengthens the bench. And there'll be at least one or two starters in there with the bench as well. So yeah, I'm super excited about it. Let's talk about OG Anunoby for a minute. He signed a big contract. All 5 years are guaranteed. By the way. Um, are you expect and this is for the chat as well. Are you expecting more from him because of the contract he signed? And this is for the fans too. Are there higher expectations of OG Anunoby because of the massive contract extension that he signed? Just your thoughts on that.
To me, I want OG to be an all-star in his role. I want him to do what he does the best, because I look at these salaries a lot different than a lot of other people do. I mean, people see 212 million. He's being paid like a superstar, but really superstars now are getting paid 300 million. You know what I mean? So yeah, like $40 million is a lot of money, because Melo only made 25, but $40 million is not the same percentage of the cap as that 25 was. And so and it kind of feels out of balance, because he's making more than Jalen, who's the best player on the team, and he's making more than Randall, who's the second best player on the team. But I think once those extensions kick in, it kind of goes back to more normal. And when you see it in that form and fashion, to me, it doesn't feel like that. So um, as far as, I'm not putting any additional weight or expectations on him, but what I'm going to say is this: I think that the addition of Bridges unlocks him on offense.
Mm.
And the reason I say that is, remember what he did against Philadelphia or Indiana rather, in the game that he got hurt. He was absolutely crushing it.
He
So he
was.
has ability, and now he's in the corner. He's an afterthought. When he gets the ball, he can either just shoot it, and he's a really good shooter, or attack the closeout real fast. He's going to have good opportunities with the ball as a fourth option, and he has skill to be more than that. So his points per game may not like be through the roof because there's only so many shots to go around. But I could see him having as far as from an efficiency standpoint, an outstanding year on that end of the floor. And I think that he and Bridges, that combination of you can put one in each corner, and they're just both deadly from there. And so that makes Brunson's life easier, and that makes Randall's life easier. And Randall likes to give those kickouts to the corner. He does it. If he's got someone he trusts there,
Hmm.
that's he's going to feed that. And we saw that. I mean, we saw, what was his name? Bullock, Reggie Bullock. He loved to pass the ball to Bullock, and both those guys are better shooters than Reggie ever was. So no
Yeah,
disrespect.
yeah. I agree with Coach. Shout out to you, Coach. I don't expect OG to be any different, given the contract that that he signed. Um, he's going to be the same defensive stopper, playing 1.5 players. Like we talked about. I think his offense, if that Indiana game that you were talking about is any indication, his offense is on the rise. And I agree with Keith Turner with Randall and OG on the team. Excuse me, Brunson on the team. I'm not sure how many offensive opportunities he'll have, but what I like is that if any of those guys can't go, we have Bridges can step up. OG and Anunoby can step up because they're gonna have more offense that then they'll have the opportunity to show, so to speak. So if Randall or Brunson ever misses a game, we should still be able to score. So I really like that. But yeah, for me, I don't have any more expectations of OG other than to just be who he was, um, and stay healthy. you know, stay
And
healthy.
so my expectations for everybody on this team are just wins. Like, I don't care who scores what. I don't care how the minutes break down. I'm not concerned. I just want to win 50 plus games, get a good seed in the playoffs, and let's get into the playoffs healthy and make a deep run. That's the rest of that stuff. I know I've sounded like an echo from you last year, so I guess I apologize for stealing your material. But
That's
but
okay.
but at this point, that's my only concern is let's get to the playoffs healthy, and then let's roll that ball out and let's go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, talking about getting getting to the playoffs healthy. There's a lot of Nick fans who would love for OG, Randall, maybe even Mitch to play um, less minutes, so that they can get to the playoffs healthy. Even though you can get injured at any time. But the question I have to the chat though is, would you be willing to trade off some wins and some playoff seedings? Um, because that's potentially what can happen if you're playing Randall 30 minutes, Brunson 32 minutes, OG 28 minutes, or whatever it is. The guys that you have in for them that's playing more minutes, may not be as effective. Still good, but may not be, as effective. And that could cost you some games. It could potentially cost you some playoff seeding. So I'm just interested in your thoughts on that, Jeff. And then I'll check in with the chat and see. And there's, like I said, there's still no guarantees. You can get injured at any time. But your thoughts, um,
I just
Jeff,
don't
on
see a
release
whole.
minutes?
I just don't see a whole lot of correlation between uh, the minutes played for this group and health. I don't like if you look at the minutes per game on for the guys this season, I don't think it's completely out of whack with what other teams are doing. Thibodeau tells them train in the off season. This is what you're going to be doing. The guys want that. They expect that. And so do I want to be healthy? Yes, but your best players should play. Like, put your best foot forward. To me, play to win and play the best players. These are professional athletes. You take care of your body, know how to train, know how to do those things, and they all do. I mean, we heard Jalen talk about it and Josh Hart talk about it extensively on the Roommates podcast. So they know what they need to do to take care of their bodies, and I think that they want to take that on, and so injuries are going to happen or whatever. But I don't think you can play being afraid to get hurt. And the reason I say that is because look at Kawhi Leonard. He's the king of load management. And is he ever healthy for the playoffs? Does it benefit him come playoff time? Does taking the 30 games off or whatever he does that show that he's ready? Has it shown that come playoff time he's ready to go? No, it just shows that it's almost like he's more likely to get hurt because he's not in the rhythm. So to me, hey JJ, salute to you, brother. To me, get out there and play, man. I guess I'm old school, but Patrick Ewing had to ice his both knees down after every game, and he was a warrior, and he played every minute. And so, to me, miss me with that. Go out there and play. That's
Yeah,
how I feel about it.
I kind of feel the same way. I don't think that the Knicks players are playing more minutes than everyone else. As a matter of fact, I may pull it up. I may pull it up. I may pull it up later. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. And show the minutes distribution. All right, maybe I can. Let's see. Is that hard to see? Should I just make it?
It is hard to see. Can you?
Yeah, it's hard to see. But anyway, amongst guards, Jalen was number 7 in minutes played. This is via StatMuse. Shout out to them. They do a great job. Among power forwards, you see that arrow under Anthony Davis. Randall would have been second in minutes. But at 35, he would have been second at 35.4. Not 38, not 39, not 42. 35.4 is what Randall played. He would have been second among forwards. Jalen also played 35.4, so he was 7th among guards. And overall, Jalen and Randall at 35.4 was 15 and 16. But the point is, due to injuries, minutes do tick up, right? It just stands, that's for any team. If you're injured, guys are gonna play more minutes. But on average,
Interesting that Anthony
35.4.
Davis was tops on that list. Mr. Ambulance himself, Anthony Davis, is number 1 on that. So to me anyway, that just should put all that business to best. He's not like, and oh, by the way, 15 or 16, they're 2 of the top 15 or 16 players in the NBA. They should be playing some of the top 15 or 16 minutes played. Like, your best players should play. Now,
Yeah.
if it was they were playing 42 minutes a game and it's 4 or 5 more minutes than everybody else, okay, then maybe that's something to talk about. But the data that's out there, the minutes data doesn't support that argument. And if it did, I might be singing a different tune. But to me, it doesn't add up.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't add up. I agree with you. Players play. I'm not saying burn players out. Back in the 90s, they would, play 38, 39, 42 minutes a game and then practice the next day. Jeff Van Gundy, Pat Riley, um, they're playing 35, 36 minutes a game. And again, when there's no injuries and they're not practicing during the course of a season. And the seeding matters. Seeding matters, and I get it. We have a good team. People always say, I'm not afraid. It's not about being afraid. Like, nobody is afraid of anybody. It's about giving yourself the best opportunity to win a series and to move on in a series. And if you got home court advantage, if it goes to game seven, it didn't help us this time, you know, but more
It would
often,
have if we had our full complement of players, though. I mean,
yes, that's true.
we were down to our last. Literally, we had Alec Burke out. So Alec Burks was out there as our leading scorer at the end there. So
Correct.
that's a not. But shout out to the Knicks fans and the chat, because think about how raucous that Garden crowd is. You can't tell me that that's not an advantage. You can't tell me that the Sixers weren't shook when they came into that building. You can't tell me that it didn't bother them. You can't tell me that it's not a difference being at MSG. Like Bridges even said himself, and he had to watch it on TV, that I can't wait to be in that atmosphere. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I didn't even get to go to the Garden. I just saw it on TV. And you
Yeah.
could feel how loud the building was on television. And if I can feel it on television, I can only imagine what it feels like for the five guys that are on the court as the opponent, especially when you've got a team that is smothering you and swarming you on defense and having to try and cover Jalen Brunson. I mean, yeah, home court advantage is important.
If
And
if it gets to if it gets to game 7, it might not. Like, you do need to be able to win on the road. Don't get me wrong, but if it comes down to a game 7, yeah, you want that to be, um, at home. Um, so, yeah, I just wanna make 2 comments, Jeff. The Parish Doug, I appreciate you. Players' usage rates and minutes played is what matters. Usually those with highest usage play the most minutes. The Knicks players are playing 35, 36 minutes a game. That's on par with the rest of the league. Like, I'm not the whole minutes played thing to me is just is really blown out of proportion. But yes, I do agree that there have been times like when Josh Hart's playing 48 minutes, and part of that was due to the injuries. There was a significant drop off when you start bringing in the bench. We didn't even have a bench. The bench was starting.
yeah, there was nobody to bring in unless you wanted Jacob Toppin to play. And no.
Right. This is coach, and this is bringing up something Jeff and I was talking about prior to coming on. If we want Dante and Hart to get 26 to 28 minutes, someone has to sacrifice. You're absolutely right, coach. Uh, this is why I think that the rotation is going to be 8, and that eighth person is not even going to be getting more than 15 minutes, if that. People want to bring back Precious Achua. Let's get this player. Where are they playing? Like, where are they playing? Now, if they agree to be situational, situational is important. Like, a lot of times when we talk about depth, we talk about, well, where's the depth behind the starters? No. Where's the depth behind the bench players? Because if there's an injury, those are the guys that's coming into your rotation. And right now we have 3 rookies situational. If there's any injuries, one of the rookies will step into the as it stands, as it stands right now. But if OG plays 36, Mikal plays 36, Randall plays 36, Brunson plays 36, and then between the 2 centers, whoever they're going to be, that's 48 right there. It's not a lot of time left, which is why I think Hart is going to back up the 3 and 4 position, and I think Devo is going to back up the 1 and 2 position. And I think McBride may be situational, or if he takes the backup Brunson minutes, which is what, 12 minutes or whatever that is, that means you got Devo and Hart splitting what? How many, Devo and Hart backing up OG Randle, and Mikal. It's not going to be a lot of minutes. We're talking about in the 20s.
If that, if you're playing deuce,
If
it'll
you're
be
playing
less.
Deuce, you're talking about those guys are going to be in the 20s. And I just don't see it. I just don't see it. So I don't see the sacrifice coming from Randall and OG and those guys. I think I see the sacrifice coming from McBride. I think his minutes. I'd be shocked if he get. Well, he's not going to get more than the minutes behind Brunson if he gets that. Um, that's how I see it shaking out.
Yeah. So if we don't play small, cover your ears, mute me for a second, Wiz. If you're listening, Wiz, mute me for a second because you're not going to want to hear this. Um, if we, if I don't know if Deuce is going to play much at all. Like, I think you've got to get with what the picture you outlined is correct, and unless you're going to play some small ball, because that opens up another 10 or 12 minutes.
Yes, it
If,
does.
in
Yes,
other
it
words,
does.
if you're gonna play OG at the 5 some, or Randall at the 5 some, however you want to phrase it, that opens up a few more minutes. But again, still you're talking about 20 something minutes a game for Josh Hart, 20 something minutes a game for Dante DiVincenzo, and then your big four, 35, 36 minutes apiece, and then whatever you get out of Mitch, 24 to 30 minutes probably out of him if he's healthy, and then whatever's left over is not much there. And look, I mean, I love Deuce as much as the next person. Don't underrate what Dante DiVincenzo was last year. He was legitimately like the best 3-point shooter in the NBA last year, like in Steph Curry class. Like, just look at the stats. So, to just say that he's not going to get 24, 25 minutes, I, I think is insane. And Deuce played well. I'm not trying to take anything away from Deuce. I'm just saying that the minutes just aren't there for him to be playing big minutes. Who's he taking minutes from? That's my question. Honest question. Who's he taking minutes from? Where are you carving out 20 minutes per game for Deuce? Honest question.
And even a 9-man rotation. Okay, let's just say we re-sign Precious, right? He's
Mhm.
backing up Randall. You got Hart backing up OG. You got Devo backing up Bridges. You got McBride backing up. Well, that would be 10-man. Let's just say um, Precious is backing up both Randall and Mitch. Do you really think Bridges and Devo are going to share minutes 24 and 24? I don't think
Mm.
so. Or even if Bridges gets 30, 36, or even 34, you think Devo's only going to get 16 minutes a game? So the
No.
more people we have in the rotation, you got to think about it. Like I don't. You think Hart and OG sharing minutes? You think they're going to be 24, 24 or 36, 14? Like I just don't see it. And I get it. You know, um, yeah, Hart would be super fresh going into the playoffs if he was just playing minutes behind OG. He would be super fresh. Um, but I just don't see it going down that way. I see our starters playing 35, 36 minutes a game. I would be shocked if they average less than that.
And even if it's just 34, that doesn't leave a ton of minutes. Like, so if they all play 34, that opens up an extra 8 minutes. That's probably your Deuce minutes right there. If you want to know this, so if they all play 34 and everybody else gets what everybody else gets that we talked about, that opens up an 8-minute window for Deuce. And I think that's the max that you're going to see unless there's injuries. And through the course of the season, yes, that's exactly right. There's going to be blowouts. There's going to be foul trouble. There's going to be injuries. And that's
Right.
going to be, but what we're talking about right now is fully healthy, Because that's what we're looking at. Fully healthy come playoff time, what's the rotation going to be? Because I think everybody agrees that if this team is relatively healthy, they're going to win a lot of games, 45, 50, 55, whatever you think the number is, that's fine. But I think that you figure we're going to be top 6 in the East at least. And so, but then when it comes to push comes to shove, in the playoffs, we know rotations get tighter. What does it look like? Who gets the minutes? And I just don't think it's going to be a 9-man rotation. I think it's going to be 7 or 8. I just do, depending on
7
health.
is tight. I mean, 7 is tight, but listen, these were starters on the bench now. Devo was a starter. Hart was a bench player, but he started every game in the playoffs. CAA Mafia, Kolick is going to get minutes. The kid can run an offense. I don't see where we already struggling to get minutes for significant minutes. I mean, sure, if you want to give guys like 10, 15 minutes, yeah, you could definitely do that. But I don't see where Kolick would play, because if he's playing behind Brunson, then what do you do with Deuce? Now Deuce is playing behind Bridges. So what does that do for deep? So I don't see it unless there's an injury.
Yeah, if there's an injury, Kolick might play. Depends on his defense.
Mhm.
Like if Kolick can't guard anybody, I don't know if he's going to see much time on the floor. Anyway, if Kolick can't play, and I like Kolick as a prospect, I think I tend to be on the side that he's going to be good in a year or two, in a year maybe 2 or 3. Like I think that he's the eventual Deuce McBride replacement. They're different players, but I think he's the backup one of the future. I think, and JJ may be right. Deuce is the backup shooting guard, but I think he's going to play backup lead guard minutes just because we don't really have a backup lead guard. and so I think that you're going to see that some, but Kolek I like, but enjoy summer league, boys, and ladies and gentlemen, because that's all you're going to be seeing these rookies. They're not going to be playing significant time. We're running it. We're trying to win a championship. We're not running a preschool.
Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, I don't think the rookies. They're situational. They're situational. I don't see them being in the rotation. And if you're trying to win a championship, do you feel comfortable? I don't feel comfortable playing rookies. They're super inconsistent. They might come through big for you, but they might not. I don't know if those are the chances you want to take if you're trying to win a championship. You want to have as solid a rotation as possible. And if you're playing a rookie, either they were super great or something went wrong.
And I don't think they're going to get a chance to show that they're super great. That's the thing. We have so much, like, Deuce McBride, to be clear, deserves playing time.
Right.
In my opinion, I think he deserves playing time. There's just not a lot of it to go around because the people in front of him are just better than him. And that speaks to the depth of this team, but we have a definite pecking order. There's a definite there are players who are just high quality, and Deuce is a good player, but he's just a cut below DiVincenzo and Bridges. That's just facts. That's just truth. And Brunson too, for that matter. And that's not a knock on McBride. If you telling me there were 5 or 10 teams that McBride could go in and start for, I wouldn't, be shocked. I don't know. I hadn't looked, but he could definitely be a rotation piece on a lot of different teams. So I just don't think he's a high minutes guy for this version of this team. Not that he can't be. He was great in the playoffs even last year. He played well. So I have respect for him. I think he's a good player. But you play your best players, and he's not one of our best players.
Yeah. Yeah.
To
I
me.
mean, yeah. I mean, it'll, for those who CAA Mafia said, keep sleeping on Cole. We're not sleeping. We're not sleeping on him. I'm sure he could play, but we're trying to win a championship. I I don't know if you, yeah, I don't feel comfortable with a rookie in the rotation if we're trying to win, if we're going for a championship. Um, but I hear you, and I think for those who want to play 8, 9, 10 man rotations, just work the numbers out yourself. Get out a piece of paper and just work it out, and you'll see. You know, even if let's just say OG and Hart are sharing minutes, even if you get OG down to 30, that's still just 18 minutes for Hart. You know,
Yeah, I can't imagine him playing just 18 minutes. He's going to be over 20 for sure.
right? And even
Probably
if
over 24.
even if you just if you have Devo playing behind Bridges, even if you lower Bridges minutes down to 30, again, that's still just 18 minutes for Devo. I just can't see DiVincenzo playing 18 minutes a game. I just don't see it. You know? Um, yeah. Yeah, Keith, I agree with you, but he didn't have these horses though. But you're right. You're right. We'll see. We'll see you know, how it
But
all works out. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, so yeah, 9 man would just be. So yeah, I think he'll play 9, but I don't think all of them are going to get like what I consider full rotation minutes. Like if you're playing 10 minutes or less, I don't really, yes, you're playing, but I don't really consider that rotation minutes. And I think whoever the backup 5 is, and then Deuce are going to get like 10. They're going to get the Obi minutes basically, in my opinion. So, I mean, we'll see. And again, injuries have an effect. Like if someone gets hurt, Deuce is going to step in and get an expanded role. There's no question about that. But
That's why
when
he's
fully
important.
healthy, if fully healthy, you know, it's just a minutes crunch. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. The top 9 guys are really strong, and the top 7 guys are super strong.
Yeah. Yeah. But Deuce is important though, because again, if one of those wings can't go, he's right into the rotation playing big minutes, and we know that he can do that. So when they thinking about signing a backup center and putting Deuce in the trade, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. Because he's actually the if Devo goes into the starting lineup without McBride, who's the guard coming off the bench in
Right.
substitutions? No. So he's super important. He might get 9, 12, 15 minutes, but if there's an injury, he's the next guy up. So, and the Knicks are aware of that. The Knicks are aware of that,
And
which is
capable of
why
playing
they don't
48, by the way, if you need him to. I mean, he's shown he can go the whole game if you need him to and play
correct,
well. So,
correct.
and there'll be times next year, I promise you, where they'll need him for that because injuries are going to happen and crazy stuff happens. And there will be games when he plays starters minutes just because so and so's not healthy, so and so turned an ankle or whatever the case may be. But when everybody's there, that gets dialed back severely. That's all. That's all we're saying.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Let's go to the center position. Do we need a backup center, or is going small ball the best option um, for us? And so when it's time for Mitch to like just make that a regular part of what we do. So when it's time for Mitch to go to the bench, instead of bringing in Sims, OG goes to the 5, Randall goes to the 4. Like that's how we're gonna divide the minutes up behind Mitch. Your thoughts on that?
Well, my answer to that is I want a backup center for when Mitch is hurt. Like
Yeah.
during the games when Robinson is healthy, I'm perfectly fine with OG at the 5 small ball minutes for 12, 15, 18, whatever minutes it is. I'm perfectly okay with that. But I don't really want to do that for a whole game. So I don't feel comfortable giving those minutes to Sims. And so from that standpoint, yeah, I'd like another big man. There's not really that many out there. I mean, uh, frankly, I'd be okay with them just bringing Precious back just because I think he can fill in that role. And uh, I'm not sure what the holdup with Precious is. I don't know if it's because we're waiting to make it part of a bigger move or if they're wanting to use his salary and a sign and trade to bring somebody that they want back who's for a lower price, um, like a Walker Kessler or a Sangoon or whoever it is. But I think just because of Mitch's injury history, you need to have somebody off the because if Mitch gets hurt and then you just have OG and Randall, and then what if OG goes down because he goes down? So you know then it really gets to be a problem. So I just think it's not wise to just have Mitch, and I don't have a lot of faith in Jericho Sims. I know there are comment content creators rather who are like, oh well, Jericho's ready to step up. I haven't seen that yet. That doesn't mean it can't happen. I'm just not confident in Jericho Sims, and I would like to see somebody better than him in that role. And I think Achua is better than him in that role, frankly.
Yeah. Jay just said Precious kind of got exposed late in the season in the playoffs. Listen, Precious, Sims, Mitch, you all know how I feel as far as the offensive um the end. But at least Mitch, if he's healthy, makes up for some of what he doesn't do on offense by just how great he is on the defensive end and as far as offensive rebounding is concerned. I don't see that. Sims is limited offense. He's limited offensively, but you're not getting what you're getting from Mitch, or at least on the defense to balance it out. Precious is limited offensively um, as well, though there may be some upside there, maybe. Um, and he's not balancing that out on the defense as well. Even though he's switchable, I get it. He can block a shot. I get it. I'm not that high on Precious coming back. That being said, though, it's slim pickings. It's slim pickings. And are you willing to give up Deuce in a trade for a backup center? And I feel like you might be strengthening one position depending on who you get and weakening another. I mean, we talk a lot about Mitch injuries and you can't count on Mitch. He hasn't played. We're in the same boat with OG and Anunoby. So just like when it comes to Mitch, people are like, when Mitch gets hurt, when Mitch, you can almost say the same thing about OG and Anunoby. And so that means Deuce is going to be super important because, like I said earlier, when Devo goes into that lineup, you're going to need McBride backing up the one and the two positions. So unless you're going to trade McBride to get a center, I know I read somewhere that I think I think it was Nick Film School and Jeremy Cohen. I'm not sure that the Knicks would still have the taxpayers mid-level exception to maybe sign a guard if they had to trade Deuce. But which guard are you getting at this point in free agency that's going to give you what Deuce gave you? You know, so I think it's a tough it's a delicate situation. It's a delicate situation. So let's see. I know there's some in the chat who think that part of the holdup is that the Knicks are or that basically Bridges is not the finishing piece. That cat is the finishing piece. So I've seen that in the in the in the chat, like Paris, shout out to you. Parrish, it makes me sad. hmm But Randall is headed to Minnesota for Cat because he's a spread five center. I mean, he's actually a power forward, but you could play him at center. I don't know if you want to start him at center and play him at center the entire game, but yeah, you can play him at
I
you
don't
could
think
play
he
him
wants to play at center the
and I
entire
don't think he
game.
wants to play the entire game as well. JJ said he better be the missing piece talking about Bridges after all
Hey
those
man,
points we gave up for him.
JJ always keeping it real. I love it. That's a great comment.
Salute, Corey Lee. Appreciate you.
Salute, Gory.
Rando 1973. I don't know if this is your first time. Welcome. If not, welcome back. We do need better centers, but right now we're going to have to ride it out with what we got. Hopefully next season we can make something happen. Yeah, I mean, I hear you, Rando, 1973, but answer me this. Are you okay? That being said, if Mitch were to go down, um, and we weren't able to, and we fell short of the finals, or even fell short of the Eastern Conference finals, you wouldn't be like, dang, we should have got a little more insurance. We knew this could have happened. Let me yeah, let me know what you know what you think about that. Um yeah, I'm not sure. Are they looking to trade for a center? Are they looking to make another big splash? I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think if they thought uh, Precious was the answer, he'd already be locked and in position. I'll say that. You know what I mean? If they really thought that he was the solution for that spot, they would. In other words, they didn't waste any time in all those other deals. They're dragging their feet on the Achua situation for a reason, whatever that reason may be.
Coach, I would love for you to call into the show. I know you are a big Cat fan. I like Cat too. I like Cat too. I'm not gonna lie. I like what he brings. I don't think he's as soft as people say he is, and I don't think his defense is as bad as people um, say it is. Salute, Mega NYK, sneaking into the chat. Appreciate you.
Love me
Um,
some Megan.
yeah, but yeah, I wish you would call into to the show. Just would like to know why are you so high on him? What do you think he brings, um, to the Knicks? And do you think that increases our chances of winning a championship? Yeah. Um,
I'm not the biggest fan of Cat, but I understand the fit of Cat, and I can see the logic that that Cat does things that this team likes more than Randall does in other words, he does stretch the floor. He is a legitimate 3-point shooting threat. He's not a good defender. He's not a rim protector, but neither is Julius. Remember, we're talking about Cat at the 4. We're not talking about Cat as our 5. Because I just don't think that's what he is. If they get Cat, it's to fill in the Randall role and to not have to worry about the uncertainty of a Randall extension. Because what Cat does is he makes enough money where you have cost certainty with him. And also, if you wanted to trade for another big name, and you can't really aggregate salaries, or you know, depending on what apron you're at and all of those sorts of things, that's a big salary that you can include in a trade if you wanted to make another big player trade down the line also.
yeah. Shout out to Ron, still Knick fans. I'm just trying to understand why fans always want to trade Randall. I understand the Knicks' point of view. I just don't understand why some fans don't think Julius works with this team. I mean, I mean, there's some concerns about Randall and Mitch. But that being said, I believe Randall had an all his first All NBA season between Mitch and RJ Barrett. So if he made that work, as far as spacing and things like that, I think he'll make this work as well. But your thoughts, Jeff, on Randall working with this team? Does he need to change his game some? Will he still be the second option? Will he kind of? I'm not going to say play more team ball because I don't think Randall is selfish at all. But I will he. Mm, will this continue to be a ball movement team when he comes back?
I'm not sure about the ball movement part. But again, I'm not overly concerned about the ball movement. I know people like the pretty basketball, but like to me, get him down on the block and let him bully some folks and get easy buckets inside. That's what I want him to do. That's where I think he's super effective. Randall's a terrific player. People sleep on Randall. I'm mentioning the whole Cat thing not because I want Cat over Randall, just because I think if they don't think they can come to an contract extension that they like, it may be there's not really a better time to move Randall, and the only piece that doesn't set us backwards in terms of overall talent is Towns. There's not a lot of players who can do what Randall can do. That's how special he is. I'm not advocating moving Randall. I'm just saying if the finances dictated, if they're not sure about what Randall wants to do with a contract, if they're not comfortable for whatever reason with the money that they would have to pay him, I have no idea if they are or not. But I'm just saying if they're not, and he doesn't want to sign the extension, and he wants to go into free agency, we just lost a really good player in Isaiah Hartenstein. They may not want to go into that risk again. And so, again, if you're going to trade Julius Randle, which I'm not advocating for, but if you are going to, Towns is one of the few players that makes sense because I'm not sure he's an equal talent, but I will say he's a commensurate talent. He does different things. They both have their pluses and their minuses. I think Randall fits really well with what this team does. I think Randall could average more assists this year than he ever has in his career. And I think he was leading the team in assists before he got hurt. Like, I think Brunson's assist numbers went way up after Randall went out in January. But I think when he got hurt, that he was our top assist guy. And so I'm with you. I don't buy that he's not a team player. Does he have the ugly turnovers from time to time? Yes, those are the plays we all remember. I don't think anybody ever wants to see him do the spin move and pass again in their life. I get that. I understand that. But and Randu makes a good point. We haven't seen Randall in the playoffs healthy yet. And so there is that question, and I think that goes back to how comfortable you are paying him, max dollars or whatever that next paycheck is going to be, if you're not sure that the guy, and in some ways that's why this season was that shoulder separation was such a devastating injury, not just for because we didn't get to see him play, but also we don't really know what we have still. And that was the big thing that we wanted to see last year was Randall in the playoffs, because if we saw Randall in the playoffs and let's say we made it to the Eastern Conference Finals and lost, then you're like, okay. Or if he had another terrible series and then we lost to Philadelphia, then we know, okay, well, we probably need to move on from him. We would have more clarity about the situation, but
Right.
he's still a question mark as far as postseason is concerned. And so I think still Knicks fans run. I think that's part of the reason, but also some people just don't like Julius. Like there's a contingent of fans out there that Julius could sign them a check for $1 million and they'd be like, well, why didn't he give me $2 million? You know what I mean? There's just some people who he can't do anything right. Maybe it was the thumbs down thing. I don't know what it is, but there are some. Maybe he dumped their sister. I don't know what he did to him, but he did something to him, and he is on their list, and they're not going to like him. He could win the Knicks a championship, and then they'd be like, well, why hadn't he won 2 championships? It's never going to be enough with them. So, you know, I think he helps this team. I like Randall. I would love to see this team win with Brunson and Randall, just because, first of all, Randall came in here when nobody else would. He came here when Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant dissed us. He came, he took the money. He had a tough first season, I'll admit, but he transformed into an all-star, all-NBA player. And and from that standpoint, he elevated his game, and he kind of became like a homegrown talent to us. And so, it would be really awesome to see a team built in a way that no other team, I think, has been done before, where both your stars are free agent signings that were kind of under the radar, undervalued guys who took the next step, who took that leap. And really, when you think about how the Knicks have built this team, they built it around. I know earlier I said Brunson, but they really built this team around Julius too. Because if you're going to have a power forward like Julius, you want those 2s and 3s who can play that lockdown wing defense, because it helps cover for Julius as well. Oh, and by the way, you have Mitch in there too, because he helps also. And so you have all those things. So I feel like every episode we end up getting into a Randall debate or discussion.
I mean,
That's just how polarizing it is. But
yeah, I think I think for the Knicks front office, I agree with you. It's about the money. If he doesn't sign an extension, they're in a tricky situation, because I hear what you're saying. If he doesn't sign an extension this summer, then he's an unrestricted free agent. They run the risk of losing him. I will say it's a little different than Hartenstein, because they can sign him to whatever they want. They were kind of limited in what they not kind of they were limited in what they can offer Hartenstein. That wouldn't be the case with Randall. But you're running a risk of signing him this offseason in a cost controlled, it's a bit more cost controlled than next offseason. But I think he can make 40 million this year per year on an extension. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But do you want to pay him 40 million when he's a question mark in the playoffs? And I say question mark. I'm not saying that he can't perform in the playoffs. I'm just saying he was injured the last 2 years, so he hasn't been able to prove that, right? He was injured the season before last, and this past season, he didn't play. So it's a
and
question
his
mark.
first playoffs were bad because he didn't have anybody else around him.
First playoffs was bad because he didn't have any around him. I agree. So I agree now. I didn't agree back then, but I agree now. Um, so it's a tough situation for the Knicks. So yeah, you want to lock them up, but then another part is, for how much? For how much? So it's going to be interesting to see. And I want to say that Anagro won. If I'm not mistaken, he didn't play well in one series, and he played pretty well in
He
another.
played well against Denver, and then he disappeared against Dallas.
Okay, okay, all right. Yeah, his playoff performances over the years have been up and down. People talk about Randall, but Cat's playoff performances have been up and down as well. All right, there was something else I wanted to say. Giorgio, I just want the Knicks to run it back with the same. How are we going to run it back with the same team? We brought in Mikal Bridges and we lost Hartenstein, so it's not the same team. Yeah, it's not the same team. It really isn't, just because of those two moves. But I hear what you're saying. We can always trade Randall in And why? Randle is the second option on offense. It's not, I mean, listen, anything is possible. Anything is possible. I would be shocked if Mikal Bridges or OG Anunoby are the second options on this team offensively over Randle. And I get it. The ball is going to be moving. Anybody is liable on any given night to be the leading scorer. But Randle is the one you're going to be dialing up plays for to make sure that
He's
he
the one with
gets
the
the ball.
gravity. He has
Correct.
more gravity than Bridges, and that's not a knock on Bridges or OG. It's just facts.
Right.
OG does not have gravity. Neither does Bridges. Bridges has some, but he doesn't have like Randall has.
Right. Exactly. So those are the Brunson and Randall. You want the ball in their hands. They're going to draw double teams. They're going to draw attention, and that's going to lead to open looks for Bridges and OG. And hopefully they'll get better at the lob pass for for Mitchell Robinson. So I don't really see Randall's role changing. Will he get less shots? Probably. But the ball will be in his hand to make the decisions after Brunson. It'll be in Randall's hands to make decisions.
And he's got better people to pass the ball out to.
Correct. Why would Cat want to leave playing? He may not want to leave. I think it's a numbers crunch with Minnesota, whether or not they want to lock this team in.
They save like $13 or $14 million I think it's a big amount of money that they save, and they're in luxury tax second apron kind of dangers. They look at their payroll; it's really big, and if they can cut payroll and have similar production, and maybe even a better fit, I don't necessarily agree with that. I still, I think Cat fits well what they're doing there, and I think Randall fits well what they're doing here. But
And not just that. Well, again, it's a money issue. It's not. I mean, you want to go over the second apron. I shouldn't say you want. I would think you wouldn't mind being at the second apron if you have a championship contending team, which they do, right? You just don't want to be in a second apron with a team that you don't think has a good shot to win. They have a good shot. So it's a matter of whether or not they want to pay the money or not. We'll see, but I'm yeah, yeah. We good over here. We
well
we
said.
good over here. Um yeah, I've been hearing this a lot. I will say this. I will say this. It took Boston multiple years before they won a championship. It took Milwaukee multiple years, Denver multiple years. Just because you have a championship roster, you're giving yourself the best chance. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen in that first year. I'm not saying it can't. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it can't. But I'm just pointing out the fact that Boston, Philly, Denver, they were championship contending teams for a few years before they actually won it. And Philly hasn't won it yet. So I like this roster. I do think it's a championship roster. Obviously, we have to be healthy. Um, but having a championship roster doesn't mean you win it. You know.
And
Your
you
thoughts,
want to
Jeff,
talk about the
and thoughts for
core.
the chat as well.
You want to talk about the core is young, right? So what
Love
you're
that.
considering is like a 2 or 3 year window, because Randall's the oldest one at 30, and then it goes down from there. So what you're really talking about is a 2 or 3 year window, with basically this group. I mean, you can make some friends, but I think no, I don't have any, but I think this is pretty much the core, excuse me, of what they're going to do. They may move Mitchell Robinson at some point, just because he has a decent salary, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I could see that happening at some point. I don't see that happening this year or right away. I'm just saying that a little further down the line, I could see that happening if the right deal comes along, because they're not trading the Nova boys. Like, I think that part of the core is locked, and so
Yeah.
Is
Right.
Randall a sure thing to be here? I don't know that he is. Again, I think Randall plus Robinson is what gets you the type of player that we would want if we're going to be moving those guys. I don't know that it makes a lot of sense to move them individually because I don't think you're necessarily going to get the player that you want just for that salary. Um, but we've got a young core. I mean, Mitch is only like 25 or 26 years old. Bridges is not. Bridges is a really good player. I think people sleep on the fact that because again I get that the price was really high, but this kid is a terrific basketball player and he does it all. I mean, he has all the tools that you want he's got versatility, he's got a jump shot, he's got a mid-range game, he can score, he hits his free throws, he hits three-pointers, there's not a whole lot that this kid doesn't do. I mean, he'll sell popcorn for you at the vending machine if that's what you need. He's a really good player, and he's added to a core, and he has really good chemistry with three of the guys. I mean, he's college teammates with three of our guys, so he's got that. They know each other, and there's something to be said for that. Power of friendship. Let's win a championship with the power of friendship. I'm for it.
Yeah, for sure. Be sure to hit that like button. We have 166 watching. We got 60 likes. So if you're appreciating the content, I just hit it myself. So I get it. Sometimes you can forget. But yeah, if you're liking the
Mega
content,
playing the
button.
Aj role. We appreciate you, brother.
Right, right, right. Um, yeah, hit that like button. Yeah, I think our window is really law. I mean, these are all guys entering their primes. I think Randall is in his prime now, but the other and maybe Mitch might be, but these guys 26, 25, 27, 28. I think, but Randall's what 29. Um, the Knicks window is large. Like this is not like a tight window where our best player is like 32 and 33. The core is young. So we'll have multiple opportunities to win a championship. I feel really good that within the next sooner than that, but within the next 4 years, we'll have it. I just feel confident, you know? I wouldn't be disappointed if we don't win a title next year as long as we continue to move forward. At least get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest. If we lose in the second round again, I would definitely be disappointed.
Yeah.
Because we were
If
we
we're
were
healthy.
we were a frog's hair away when we weren't healthy. This year. So if you can get back with the health, and I get it, losing Hartenstein is a big deal, but I
Mhm.
think gaining Bridges is a big deal also. And
Correct.
I'm not sure what would be neat, and I don't know if this is true or not, but because I want to give Hartenstein his credit, but it would be really cool that one of the things that made Hartenstein so good was that it was Tibbs, and Tibbs was able to utilize him and bring out the best in what he has, and if he's able to do the same thing with whoever else, Mitch or whoever else that we get in here, and I don't think anybody's gonna have like Hartenstein had a phenomenal season. Like his defensive metrics were like almost unrepeatable. They were so good. So, but yeah, I think it's Eastern Conference Finals or bust. I agree with you, Coach. 100%.
Old heads, this backup center issue can make the difference this season for advancing and winning it all. I agree. And I think the Knicks know that. Listen, Mitch can very well be healthy. I spoke about this on the lunchtime show. Check me out on Mondays, lunchtime live, and do my best to be consistent with that.
Great show, by the way. If you haven't
Thank
checked
you.
that out, you need to.
Appreciate you. Anthony Davis played, I think, over 70 games this year. Paul George played over 70 games this year. It's possible Mitch plays over 70 games this season. I just think you just have to prepare just in case. hope for the best, prepare for the worst. You know,
And old
um,
Ted, I don't think the Knicks did cartwheels and bent over backwards and did all this stuff to just take a nap and be like, okay, we're good at.
yeah,
Maybe
we're
they
gonna
are.
rest
Maybe
this. So,
that's what they're gonna do.
right,
But
we're gonna rest our championship hopes on Mitch remaining healthy. I just don't. I don't think they're gonna do that. But this is the other question, though. Do you think they really believe, or do you believe Sims has that upside? Like, if Tibbs is actually the center whisperer, I think you got to have something to work with, though. But 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 just your thoughts on if Mitch were to go down. Is it possible that Sims turns into something we didn't think he could?
possible. Yeah, I suppose it's possible. Likely, I don't think it's likely. Um, and I don't think the Knicks think it's likely either, or you wouldn't be hearing names like Kessler and Sangoon and
They
whatever else.
mentioned Sengun as well.
I don't. I've heard. It
Oof.
wasn't a source that I super trust, but I have heard. I've heard. I've heard. I don't think we have enough to get him, but
Mhm.
I did read something on Twitter, which is always dangerous, that had his name attached to the Knicks at least from an interest standpoint. But well, the thing about Sangoon is he's kind of I think he's in the last year with his player option, and
Mhm.
then he's due for an extension. Kind of like we were in the situation with Quickly. I
Right.
think he's in
Okay. Similar
he's in a
situation.
similar boat, and I don't think the Rockets want to pay him. Kind of like we didn't want to pay Quick, but that doesn't
Mhm.
mean we have what it takes to get him. But golly, you want to talk about a guy who can you wanted an offensive center, an offensive threat. That would be the guy for sure. But yeah, so I don't know what they're gonna do, but it's still it hadn't even hit summer league yet, so there's a lot of off season left for the Knicks to do something. I think it's significant that Achua hasn't signed with anybody, including us. I think that means that there's an opportunity. Remember, a sign and trade benefits him also
Right.
because that means he gets more money. And so that may be what he's waiting for, is to get that sign and trade so that he gets that boost in salary and maybe gets to go to a team where he's going to see more playing time. Because if you're Precious, do you just want to play, you know, backup minutes and hope Mitch gets hurt, or do you want to have go to a place where you have a regular role? And then the question is like, what about a place like Detroit? Is Isaiah Stewart going to be on the block? I mean, they have Jalen Duran. They got Paul Reed now. Maybe Stewart becomes expendable. Maybe that's an avenue that we can explore. I don't know much about Stewart personally, but I know that there are a lot of people in the chat and in other places that I trust who are very high on him. So maybe that's
He's
that's
undersized
something.
too, right? I mean, he's still a center, but he's like what 6'9"?
Yeah,
Stewart. Yeah. All right.
just a little bit bigger than Precious. Isn't Precious just like
Oh,
6'7" or six
and
nine,
he's
something like that?
beefier. He's beefier as well. Um, yeah,
I
he's
don't know too
beefier.
much about him. I saw that. Well, I saw that they signed Paul Reed, and at first I just chuckled to myself and like, oh, another center in Detroit. But uh, you know, Duran is probably the guy that they're going to want to give the majority of the minutes to. And if you're signing Paul Reed, I don't think you're signing him to play 3 or 4 minutes a game. So, um, you know, oh, thanks, building blocks. I'm assuming you're talking about Stewart there. That's
Yeah.
yeah. So he is a little bit undersized, but
Is he? Precious is from New York City too.
yeah,
So
he is.
are you talking about Stewart? Is Stewart from New York? I didn't know that. Ah, I like Doran's. I like Doran too. I was gonna say I would like somebody with a little more experience, but Kessler doesn't. Kessler doesn't have a lot of experience playing behind Mitch either. If we were to get him,
He checks all the boxes for a Tibbs center, though. Kessler
he
does.
does. He's young though.
Kessler's a great rim protector. He's great in drop coverage. I mean, I don't think we can afford him, but if the Knicks, there's a reason why the Knicks were knocking on that door because Walker Kessler checks off a lot of boxes for what they like, and he would be the eventual replacement with his age. He would be the guy that they could replace Mitch with eventually, and they would feel much more comfortable if they had to move Robinson out of town if they had a guy like Kessler
Mhm.
backing him up.
Yeah, I hear you, coach. But Dorian he wouldn't come here and not play defense. Like he has the
Why is
tools.
Detroit moving on from Doran exactly?
I don't know. I have no idea. I mean,
Isn't he their
they have
starting
money to
five?
play. They have to play. They have new management over there. New coach Trajan Langdon, I believe from Atlanta. They brought in a new coach. They brought in Bickerstaff, if I'm not
Yeah, they did.
um
That's the coach for
mistaken.
sure.
And he's going to get paid at some point, and I think they're you know deciding. I think
Well, that
Ivy
would be
might be
really
on the
funny
way
if
out
we
too.
traded for Duran after trading him away
Uh,
on draft night. That would
right,
be
right,
talk
right.
about coming full circle again, though, because that's kind of what we had the chance to get Bridges and we didn't, and then we ended up trading for Bridges. We had why don't we just draft these guys?
Right. I'd rather get a 7-footer as well. I like Kessler. Um, I mean, he's still it's still the same issue on offense that we're dealing with Mitch. Like you don't have to tend to him. His guy can roam and you know um and what have you. But yeah, I would love to have him or Nick Richards. Either one of those guys I'm good with.
Why is Charlotte getting rid of Nick Richards? I've heard his name a lot too, but like he's on a reasonable salary. He's a good backup for Williams. Like, what is the urgency to move off of that contract? Like, I've heard a lot of Nick Richards, but I just don't understand why Charlotte is just like wanting to part with him to get Precious Achua or Precious Achua in a second round pick. I looked up Richards' numbers. He was really good last year, and
Mhm.
Mark Williams is younger, but to have both of those guys, I would think that you would want that.
Yeah, yeah. I have no idea, but it doesn't necessarily. I mean, every different teams have different plans, different objectives. It doesn't mean that they're not good players because they're trying to get off of them. Like it must be something wrong with them if they trying to get rid of them. Um, it could be multiple.
Sure, I
It
get
could
what you're
be
saying.
multiple reasons. Um, Now listen, Robert Williams. Come on, to back up Mitch. No.
Hey, they could
Anybody
visit each other at the hospital room. Right? Just swap places. That'd be real convenient. They could share a hospital room. In fact, hey, we'll give them the whole wing. We'll call it the Robinson Williams wing
of the
of the medical center.
hospital for special surgery. That was funny. All right. I think let me see if I have um anything. I guess the last thing I have before we get out of here is just summer league. Um Building
I actually
Block
think
said he
summer league
never
is
heard
interesting this year.
is that New York was interested in him. Not necessarily, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Building Blocks. Appreciate you. Um but yeah, you were gonna say something, Jeff?
Yeah, yeah. I was just saying, I'm actually interested in summer league. We got
Me too.
a lot of interesting characters there that I'm curious to see how they perform and what they have, and even guys like get to see has Jacob Toppin improved his game at all, and then Rokas, I'm excited to see him. See how his game translates because that's the thing. If Jokic can play, you
Mhm.
know, then maybe that maybe gives you the flexibility to move Deuce if you needed to, if you felt comfortable with Rokas. And I'm
He's
not
on the
saying
summer
that's
league
for
roster.
right now, but Hmm?
He's on the roster. He is on the summer league roster.
Yeah. So we'll
Uh,
get to see him. We'll get to see Kolek. I'm really interested in Kolek. You know, I never really summer league is a guard game to me, so I don't really think you get to see like Hawk Purdy will be out there and
mhm.
but it's really just it's really just a guards game. So I think you can't really draw too much from what centers do. Sometimes like Mitch had a great summer league, like that his rookie year. After summer league, I thought we had drafted the next Bill Russell. Like his summer league performance was so good, and obviously he was not that. But so I mean, it is what it is. You can't like we all like to have our overreactions. If Kolek drops 30, we've got the next Michael Jordan, or Kolek goes 0 for 9. Oh, this guy's a scrub. He'll never be
Right,
anything.
right,
You
right,
know how we do. It's this classic uh, overreact to the moment kind of a thing. But I saw everybody giving Bronny James a hard time
right,
because
right,
of
right,
his first couple games in LA. But he stuffed the stat sheet in that second game. He did a little bit of everything. I mean, he didn't score a whole bunch, but he was in a lot of different categories. I mean, for a 55th pick or whatever he was, people acting like they picked him fourth overall.
right, right, exactly. Listen, how the tides have changed. Wasn't it Paris Duggar 2 years ago? Don't touch any of the kids. Trade Randall. Now our summer league team is our showroom floor display of trade assets.
Translation: he doesn't like any of these kids, and we can get rid of all of them.
I hear you, Paris. We're in a different place now. So you're right. You're right. Um, I don't know. I don't know, David Elbari. I appreciate you stopping by. That happens to me too with the Nothing But Knicks channel. I do not get Nothing But Knicks notifications. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not
Yeah, I
sure.
don't know about that either. Sorry about that, David. That stinks. Well,
Yeah.
catch the first hour in the replay, gang. I guess.
But Thursdays 9 o'clock. Thursdays 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
Sometimes today I got the show out late on the phone with AT&T. No, Apple, trying to figure out why this hotspot is not connecting. Um,
it's held up for an hour and a half though. We're doing good.
yeah, you know what? I finally figured out to connect it to my laptop and then use my laptop as a display to the big screen. Y'all know
That's
my
smart.
condition
It's a good
takes me
workaround.
time to figure things out. Um, he said he'll go. I appreciate you. Let us know what you think in the comments. I'm doing a better job. I don't know how far I can go back, but I think for like the past two shows, I've been doing a good job going back and um, commenting, answering the comments. Relax, relax. All of our past picks are major play. What's a major player in a rotation? What's a major player? Come on now.
Is Quentin Grimes a major player now?
I think he's gonna do well in Dallas, though.
I do too, but is he a major player? He's a bit
Yeah,
player.
yeah,
Especially now that they got Clay, he's going to be backing up Clay.
yeah. But I mean, to his point, um, uh,
And I like
RJ.
Grimes. I'm not fuss. I'm just saying I wouldn't go so far as to say
Yeah, I mean,
major.
Quickly got a max contract, so maybe that's what he's talking about. Quickly got a max contract. Um,
RJ.
RJ, you know, major players on teams that's, not doing that well, I guess. I guess you're right. I guess you're right. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to Summer League. I want to see the center, Huck Porty. And I want to see the how you pronounce his name again? The first round pick?
Oh, Daddy.
Daddy,
Film
Daddy,
Daddy.
Daddy. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm
Heard
looking forward
he's
to
got
it.
offensive game. Like he could cook. He's a traffic cone on D, but I heard I heard he's a really good scorer. So summer league, he should be. Summer league should be right up his alley.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Um, Magellan, you can go over the cap to sign your own players. So that's not going to be an issue with Randall. That's how the cap is. They'll let you go over it to sign your own players, but in terms of going out and um, fortifying your team, with players that are not on your roster, they're making it difficult, as you go over these, the first tier, second tier. But for Randall, if they wanted to, they can pay him.
Yeah. I think the question more with Randall is, do they want to lock themselves into, because once you cut that check for Randall, you pretty much, your core is in place
You're locked
for
into
that.
the roster.
You're locked into what you're going to do, and they still have an option about that. If you don't think that you're complete, which apparently they don't, then you have one more move you can make if you choose. That's the way that I look at it with Randall. It's not that they want to keep him. It's just that this front office explores everything. That's one thing I like about it. They are very diligent. They look at all the possibilities. They really they really do a good job about, you know, kicking the tires on everything. And, there are a lot of deals that don't happen that we don't ever hear about, so just don't mistake inactivity for lack of action, or lack of a big splash for lack of activity, because they're
Right.
working. It's just there's not much fruit blooming at this point, but um,
Mhm.
you know, the roster doesn't need to be finalized till September, so we still got a couple months to play with, and we're kind of in the dead zone right now. You know, after summer league, as the season gets closer, you might see some more, but hopefully Brunson signs that extension. That's the news that I think I want to see drop next, because
Yeah.
that would give us more flexibility for the short term,
Right.
and lock him in place, which both are important things. Not that I think he's going anywhere, but to
Right.
lock him in place at a good number would be excellent, because he's on one of the best value contracts in the NBA right now. So I think if he extends, he's still on a really good value contract for what he brings to the table.
Listen, if I'm Brunson and I'm looking around and I'm seeing what OG is getting, no discount. I'm betting on myself, and next year I'm
See, but
getting
what
the
he can
200 something.
do, if he what he can do though, is if he gets to the point he can get that 10-year max. In other words, you do the extension, and
Mhm.
the final year is a player option, and then he's eligible for that super duper deluxe mega,
Gotcha.
you
Gotcha.
know,
Gotcha.
max. I think that's the idea behind signing the extension, and it does help the team out. In other words, he wants to keep Bridges around. He wants to keep, DiVincenzo around. He wants to win, but he wants to win with his guys too.
Right,
The,
but
the
they can
team
stay
is
around regardless, Jeff. I mean, if they're on the team, the Knicks can go over the cap
right.
um, to sign him regardless. But I hear what you're saying. If he does a 3-year contract, then he'll make it up down the line. But yeah. So Nick Yak, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I never said Huck Porty would not play in summer league. I never said that. It was always about whether he would be a rotation player during the regular season. And I don't think he will.
No,
I don't think
like
he
if Forty is a rotation player, we're in big trouble. Big trouble. Like that means that half the team is, injured, and we don't have our own pick, and we're probably headed for the lottery. So either that, or you know, so we don't want to see too much. I mean, it's, again, I should say, it is possible that he just, comes into camp and turns into the second coming of Hakeem Olajuwon, but I don't think that that's what's going to happen. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No. I mean, he got picked with the last pick of the second round. I mean, he's the last pick in the draft. Same spot that Jericho Sims went 58th, and we know what we got in Jericho Sims. And frankly, I think he's a Jericho Sims replacement. I think that, it allows us to move the Jericho Sims contract if a deal comes along where we need a couple $1 million in salary. Because remember, we're hard capped at the second apron, which means that we can't send out less money in a trade. So if you need to add a couple $1 million to a trade, guess what? Buy Jericho.
Right.
So it gives us that flexibility, and he can fill in that spot. But I'm not going to be comfortable if any of these rookies are playing. The one I'm most comfortable with actually is Kolek, but even him, again,
Right.
I think he's going to be a good player 2 years from now. I don't think any of these guys are going to make. And it's again, this take could be awful. Like one of them could surprise, but I don't think any of them are going to get the minutes because again, we're struggling to find minutes for Deuce McBride, who deserves minutes. He's a legitimate NBA rotation player right now, for sure, no doubt about it. And he is going to struggle to find minutes without injury. How is a guy who hasn't played a minute, hasn't earned Coach Tibbs' trust yet, you would have to really do something. You would have to really impress, really wow, really show the coaching staff something. And if these guys were that good, they probably wouldn't have been available when the Knicks picked.
Yeah. 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 I like. Yeah. Yeah. The rookies aren't playing. Period. Unless there's this. We're trying to win a champ. You're trying to win a championship. You're trying to win a championship. Rookies are inconsistent, and they have a right to be inconsistent. It's their first year in the league. So you feel comfortable with Huck Porty, the 58th pick in the draft, backing up Mitchell Robinson? And if Mitchell Robinson goes down, he's like, come on, like, come on, let's stop. Let's stop. I don't give a damn, Nick Yak, if he's an athlete. You know how many athletes there are in the world? What does that mean? You got to learn the paces of the NBA. You got to learn the NBA game, the NBA strength, the speed. I mean, let's be fair to our rookies. I don't even want our rookies to be thrust into that situation. It's not fair to them. It's not fair
I
to
mean,
them.
other than point guard, playing center, I think is the hardest position to learn in the NBA because, first of all, learning to stay out of foul trouble is not easy. I think every rookie center goes through the struggles with that, and then you're learning to captain a defense. I mean that's not easy. It's hard enough just to get your own assignment, but to be able to you know to be the quarterback out there and get everybody in the positions that they're supposed to be in, which is part of the center's responsibility on defense, is that's a lot for a rookie, just like it's a lot on a point guard because you have to run the offense. You have to get everybody in their sets. You have to do it. Those things are not easy. Those things are learned, and to the speed of the game is so much faster. So not only you have to learn that stuff, you're learning it in fast forward because everything is a blur. I mean, even the best players, it takes them a little bit for the game to slow down for them. You know, I'll use Wembanyama as an example. He's probably the best talent we've seen come in as a rookie in the NBA in some time, and it took him probably half a season before the game started to slow down and come to him, and then you started to see that talent burgeon forth. And this is a generational talent that we're talking about. Much less a guy. I mean, they're all good players. They're the top 500 players in the world. Like they're all good players, but the guys who crack the rotation are the best of the best.
The best of the best, particularly if you're trying to win a championship. We got our likes to 84. We got 168. Let's try to get it
Let's get
to
to 100.
100. Yep, 16 more likes. Let's try to get it to 100. That's all I have, Jeff. The Knicks play their first game. When is it? Is it the 13th?
Yes, I think it's Saturday.
Saturday. The Knicks play their first
Yeah.
game Saturday.
Let's go. Let's
Yeah,
get it.
yeah. I'm actually, if I'm not here to watch it, I'm definitely going to tape it.
Yeah,
So
I want to see how they do. I definitely curious. Definitely fun to see some guys put on the blue and orange and just see what some of these kids have.
come on, Danny. Sagoon is yeah.
Yeah,
He's
Sangoon is 21-10-5. Danny, he's really good. Oh, awesome! It's on ESPN. Thanks, old head. That's great info.
yeah, because even if I miss it, I can stream it.
Yeah.
But on ESPN too.
Perfect.
I didn't mean tape it. I didn't mean tape. You know what I mean? But if you got DVR through your cable provider, you can
We're
record the
gonna reel
show.
to reel it, Mega. She's got a projector in her basement.
Appreciate you, Mega. Oh man. Yep. Anything else, Jeff, before we get out of
Just thank you for having me. Thank you to the chat. It's always a pleasure to chop it up. I love talking about this franchise and I love this Knicks family and Knicks community. You guys are what make it happen. You make it great. And Queen, you always ask the best questions and get me to think, and I appreciate it. And let's go. Let's get this summer league and let's get a backup 5, please.
Let's get a backup 5 and a backup 5 that can step in and start. It's just a tall order. It's just a tall order.
It is.
But that's why you
Make
get
it
paid.
happen, Captain. Let's go, Leon.
That's why
You
get
want
paid.
that extension? Let's go, buddy.
Exactly.
Work that magic.
Until next time, family. Monday, I try to go at 1, but it hasn't been working out for me. But Monday, 1:00, lunchtime, live. So on your lunch break, tune in. About 45 minutes. I'll see you then. Appreciate you, Jeff, hopping on with me.
Anytime. My pleasure.
Until next time, family.
You tune in, that means you're feeling the vibe. The bell rung, you already been subscribed. Right now, the queen, she on live. Right now. Please pull over the whip, no phoning when you drive. Dope soul, sporting with the talk. First lady from New York, Brooklyn. All my people, you rocking with the chat. Hit that. The like button would tell me where you at. Step from the MBK. Born and raised up MBK. Hey, real lady, where she holding it down. No matter way how you feel, she gon' greet you with a smile.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Oh, sister, it's time you
That's her.
shine. Don't stop.
Where you at?
Don't stop.
Where you at?
Don't stop.
What?